Kia ora, good evening. Welcome to one more session of Code Night New Zealand. And well, tonight we have like a special night where I am your guest and presenter, and we're going to be exploring an interesting topic, something that I've been doing like for a while, and that's why I decided to put this session in to share with you guys, where you're going to be mastering API deployments with API ops, and we're going to be approaching two options, right? One leveraging Azure DevOps or GitHub, right? I'm gonna bring a poll. So depending like on how you guys decide, I can focus a little bit more on areas or one platform over the other. It's just because of the time, but I'll bring this poll like on the channel so you can vote. And well, if it's your first time coming here, I think you're going to be surprised because we're going to be raffling off some free licenses, right? So um, it's just like in celebration of like 1,000 members of the user group, which is amazing. Like when I started like that, like a few years ago, I, I never expect like us to get like to that point. So thank you very much for coming and staying online and sticking with our sessions. It means like a lot. It means that you're finding really useful. Uh, well, you're finding that our sessions are really useful, and I'm very happy about that and grateful for you to be joining us. Before we start, let me just come in here. I'd just like to introduce myself. So as I said, like tonight, I am the speaker. And for those that don't know me, my name is Marcel Medina. I'm a software developer, an Azure specialist. I'm also a Microsoft MVP under the Azure category. And this year now, recently, also uh, I got onto the developer technologies category as well. As you can see here, this is my QR code where I have like my technical blog. And yeah, I share like a lot of my findings. I put like in there and I share with the community. If you're coming like for the first time on the user group, we are Coding Night. We're a community group of developers. We love coding. We follow best practices on software development languages and technologies. In general, mainly focus on the Microsoft stack, but we are open to all technologies, really. If you have like great content, feel free to ping me and we can align sessions, really. That's how it works, right? In general, like I come with sessions that I share because I have like some findings. But if you have like some great content or something you want to share, feel free to ping me. And what you're gonna find like out of our sessions is that if you're a junior dev, if you're a leads developer, you're always gonna find great content that you can use like your learnings and experiences at work, right? Or even like if you're like studying, or even like transitioning careers as well. We're part of AzureTire.com, where we're a cloud native group of enthusiasts, and we get just to talk like about like the latest and greatest under the cloud native space. We're sponsored by .NETFoundation.org, which is an entity that looks after the different open source .NET projects. And JetBrains, like software tooling for developers, right? So I'm gonna be raffling off tonight 2 free tickets, right? I'm just looking right now at the user group in the attendees, right? So I'm gonna lock that because uh, I'm just gonna grab like your name, really, and we're gonna have like some fun, really. What I'm gonna do right now, I'm just not sharing my screen, but I'm just downloading the list of attendees, right? And one of the things I'd like to bring like to the chat, if you can come up like, well, I was supposed to have a poll under the YouTube, but just let me know like which particular DevOps platform would like me to approach more. Azure DevOps or GitHub? Let me just bring like a question to the chat. So which platform? DevOps platform will I focus? ADO or GitHub? All right, I just put like that on the chat. Let's see how it goes, right? I'm just gonna keep like an eye on the chat, and depending like on how you guys decide, I'm gonna have like more examples, one over the other. Just continue with the presentation, right? Let me just come to that. We're gonna have like a little bit of agenda, because if you're coming new in here, at least you're gonna know like the concepts. I'm gonna glance over them, but at least like you're gonna come here and understand like what's behind what we're presenting. So what's API ops, right? What's behind like this terminology? And what's API ops apply to APIN, right? API management and demos, really. In general, like we tend to focus more like on coding and rather than like concepts, because you can do like your own research, but at least you're gonna have like the foundation in here. I'd like just to go through the API ops, right? I grab like this definition from the web that says in here like the DevOps is a methodology, right? So it has like this, let's say, systematic or structured way to solve a particular problem. Let's say that in software development, it's a methodology in software development and IT industry, used as a set of practices and tools, right? So it says there like the set of practices. So we're going to have like some common areas, some common um, well, practices that work like within areas of different parts of the how DevOps work. Let's say that. So DevOps integrates and automates the work of software development and IT operations. So we're combining like those practices from different teams, development and operations, and we're kind of binding them together. That's like one of these diagrams, famous diagrams, where you can see that. Let me bring like this pen in here. When it comes this one, okay, right? So like under the development operations, and we have what sort of areas or some sort of practices, right? So well, areas like of planning. So we're going to define what's going to be created, and then you do like the developments. Verification would be like more around testing. Then after like things are really coded and ready to be deployed, you're going to do like some packaging, like releasing, and then we're kind of transition from development onto operations, right? Configuration, monitoring, but it's not like a different team, right? Like the same team can do both in theory, right? I'll say in theory, because in general, you still see teams where have teams of developers, teams of operations, but like in smaller companies, you see like this team bound like together, right? And that's a definition I got like from Wikipedia. So I brought like the concept of DevOps, right? We're still not there under the API ops. So how that comes to, well, how does that like become really API ops? GitOps, right? So it has a lot of context in here, but what I want to focus more is that like there's this idea of like a version control, right? And because like the most popular version control is Git, so GitOps became like it was named after Git, right? So we have like this concept also of GitOps. In DevOps, GitOps, there were like this evolution, but we're still not quite there. Well, what about like API ops, right? Let me just go that. That's an evolution, because well, things are transitioning nowadays. Like there's even AI ops, uh, but yeah, so things evolve. And So APIOps, right? So it's based on applying like the practices of DevOps and GitOps to the API development lifecycle. I say API development lifecycle because software development lifecycle has its own set of, let's say, analysis and considerations, right? If you're doing like a software development, you're going to think about like the design, the architecture or design of how the application is supposed like to work. Under the API development lifecycle, we're going to look at, okay, what sort of endpoints, right? Those requests, response, what sort of contracts on these messages or on the payloads, how they're going to work. But we still have the same sort of cycle where, okay, we're going to have like a planning, coding, testing, deployment, operation. It's this continuous feedback, right? There's like this continuous integration comes in here and kind of binds them together. I'm seeing here, I'm just checking like the chat. We have like DevOps, GitOps, GitHub, DevOps, ADO, GitHub, ADO. We have a little bit more like on ADO. I'm gonna jump in a little bit on GitHub, so you see like what's behind that. Okay, let me just continue on this. Just bringing the scenarios now on API ops apply to API management, right? So you can see, let me bring like this, the laser in here. So we have API developers, we have API operators. So you could like think about this being like dev operations. Yeah, as I said, the smaller teams, they have like both sort of roles, but in larger teams, uh, there's like this kind of separation. But you can see that, okay, API developers, they design, create, and test open API specifications, right? And then we have the Git repository. And the operators also come in here and they can create like API definitions, well, policies, any sort of like internal like service API service information, logger diagnostics. So in here, like there's a little bit more focus like on to developers creating API specifications, but they could do both really. But what's important here is that out of those changes, you have like an automated way to create like PRs, right? And validate on like those pull requests through approval. After that getting merged, right? I'm just considering this flow first, where, well, we simply could just push that to API management. We could have like the other flow as well, where we're extracting what's available in there. I think like what's going to happen in general is that the API management instance is going to be provisioned, and then you're going to extract what's in there first, right? Because your Git repo is going to be empty. You're going to extract, and then you're going to merge those changes. I have here like some scenarios where it shows like the sequence, right? So as I said, like one, there's like this extractor pipeline that comes with the API ops, let's say this, let's say package that comes in, you have access to that, so you can download. It's open source, really. And then like you can just, what happens? First step, it checks if you have like any sort of content on Git. If you don't, it creates this PR. So step two. Step three, oh, it's more like in parallel things, right? So you have like this PR hanging in there. Let's say that like they're developers creating APIs. So number three, they're going to create like PRs as well. So someone we need to approve. They could be approved, right? That's kind of would be, I don't know like which PR would come first, but let's say like they are approved. So item number 5, they get merged and then published, right, to the pipeline, through this pipeline to the API management. That's one flow. Another flow is that, let's say that the operators, they're making changes, maybe any particular schemas, right? We call like this schemas under the Git repo. Let's say they're modifying some schemas. They're going to create like the PR. They follow the same exactly process. Someone needs to approve this PR. In the end, it gets merged and automatically published, right? The other approach could be that an existing, let's say, yeah, that's the one, the existing instance or API management. Things are going to be pulled, right, from API management. It's gonna there will be like this check against the Git repo if there is a difference or not, to then create this PR. Getting merged, right? And there's a cycle in here that even in general, like you're going to be working on development instances, right, where you simply modifying things all the time. But then with the pipeline, you're going to be able to deploy that to different environments. Let's say dev test, UIT, production, for example, right? It varies. Like you will vary depending on your environments. For most of clients I've been working nowadays, they have like dev test, um, pre-prod, UIT, or then like production. And one of the things in here is that like things are consistent, right? And they are an exact match for all of the environments. I think that's what's great about APIOps applied to API management is that you can make sure that there there won't be any sort of difference on the environments. The schema is going to be exactly the same. In the past, I used to do like different things, like leveraging scripts or maybe like blueprints before like it was deprecated, or ARM templates, right? So you would just create like those the API management instance doing that. Nowadays, well, you still could do it, but it's a lot of work, really. By leveraging API ops, you simplify this whole process. That's what I want to say. Okay, uh, bringing here API ops configuration for Azure DevOps. There are some steps in here. The documentation they do like their job. I'm just making obvious, really. So, for example, when you go to there's a GitHub repository for that. So you can just go and under the releases of the API ops. I'm gonna have the link here, and you basically have like the zip file. You download that, and when you extract, you're gonna see that you have like pipelines. That's it. You have like this run extractor, and you have this publisher. There's another one with the publisher with environment. It's just because, well, you can publish to different environments, right? Dev, test, pre-prod, and prod. But you have like two pipelines that comes for you out of the box. That's how like you would be doing it on with Azure DevOps, right? I'm gonna jump to this one later, but that's the link in here. One important thing on Azure DevOps is that, well, this can be as smooth as that. So like when you just select you need to create the service connection. Uh, you could just select this option. If you are the owner of the subscription, you have the proper privileges, things are gonna work, right? In the recommended way, using like this workload identity federation, meaning that you don't have a secret for that. So it's pretty cool. Uh, it could be just like you click next and work, or you could just face like errors, and then you need to get like more privileges. Simulating that with different credentials is just insane. I prefer not to do it, but you know that it could be as easy as clicking next, or you could just face some sort of errors. But you can sort it with the proper permissions. One of the things is that because the pipelines are going to be creating PRs, you need to assign the build service. This my instance called MVP, but there's like this build service, um, which is kind of a system account. You need to make that as a contributor. PRs will be created from that account. So you need to do that. If you don't do it, you simply things are gonna fail. And then like, oh, okay, there will be a particular ID under the errors. And when you match the ID against the account, you're gonna find it's exactly this one. So something to consider. The other thing is that approvals for the environment, right? So you want to have like an approval for deployment. Azure DevOps, it works as easy as that, right? You can define like an environment, and then within that you can put like approvals. I just put like that would be like an easy option for you to do it. Together with that, we will need to put some, well, there's this single variable group. It's called like AP-automation. And in there, you can, well, there are like some minimal sort of variables. You need to specify API name, APIOps release version, resource group name. So like that's the minimal for your pipeline to work. So that's something that you need to configure. What about like on GitHub, right? So I'm just showing like configuration steps in here. On GitHub, it's you don't have the service connection, right? As on ADO. Uh, yeah, before that, let me just, there's like the zip file as well under the same like release, similar, right? So extractor and publisher pipelines, exactly the same, specific for GitHub. And what I want to show is that you need to run a command because you basically needed to allow for GitHub to push changes to your subscription, right? To your Azure subscription. So you need to have this, you need to run like those two. In here is just because one is for dev, right? It's just based on the examples I'm bringing. But you will need to do this for whatever the resource groups that you have. In here, like it's a dev, and I have a production. So you need to run that. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to publish from GitHub to Azure. Once that happens, you're going to get like this, all those details, right? With client ID, client secret, subscription ID, and tenant ID. You need to use that for like the next steps, which is basically where you use those secrets and configure GitHub. Here it is, right? So on GitHub, we're going to go like to our environments. I have defined like a dev in production, and then you need to specify those secrets, right? In here, you're basically copying the output from like the command and creating like those variables. One of the things in here, well, regarding approvals, right? It's just because I don't have enterprise license, right? So if GitHub, if you have the enterprise license, you can set approvals. They call like this protection rules, right? And then you can specify, okay, for this particular environment, this is my protection rule. I want like an approval for that. I couldn't set that with my subscription, so I'm just using like the I'm using the pro one, and I didn't have access to that. So something to consider, right? With GitHub, you also want to have an approval for a particular environment. The other thing is that for PRs to be created within GitHub, you need to create this workflow permission. So you go like under settings, actions in general. You need to give like rights, like to read and write permissions to allow GitHub Actions to create and approve those pull requests, right? So that's something that I didn't find documented, uh, but something really important that needs to happen. So what I would say is that things work really well on Azure DevOps. On GitHub, it just requires a little bit of more love for things to work, but it works, right? You're gonna see like that things are going to be fluent, and yeah, the pipelines work well. But perhaps depending on the error messages you get, sometimes if you like, for example, you have PRs and you reject PRs, you're gonna face like some errors with like the plumbing, the pipelines, because they're gonna be well completely rejected. You're gonna see like those red sort of uh, um, well bullet points under like the GitHub actions, but it is what it is. Nothing major really. Wow, let's go to the demo, right? So let me bring in here the screen. This one. All right, cool. And what I'm gonna show in here, like two things, right? So this, I have like different environments. I have created like one dev in production for Azure DevOps, another one for GitHub. I'm gonna focus a little bit more on ADO, but I'd like to say that, for example, let me see, like my screen is okay. Maybe I bring like this one a little bit more. Okay, let me zoom in. Yeah, I think it's better. Okay. Uh, one of the extensions in here, where's the extension? In here, APIN. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but you have this. You can make use of that on Visual Studio Code. It's it's handy. You can make like changes directly on Visual Studio Code and push that to uh, uh, to API management. Can be dangerous, right? I have like full control here, so proper permissions required. I'm the owner, right, of the subscription. I can see everything. But for example, right, I was just looking like one of the policies in here. Oh, that's so big. Okay, and I have created, let me see, let me see. Well, I think because I made it really big. Let me decrease a little bit more. Okay, uh, the Thunder client. I had like created this one, and this is for the mocked. So I'm setting here like 200, right? I can come in here and change, right? I'm gonna save that. There should be like, okay, upload. Yeah, do it. And well, I have already changed. So I have like this mocked API just for me, just to play and see like if things are working. So this was before 200, should be 400 now, right? So yeah, you can see that I'm controlling the changes from here. And one of the things I had done before, let me see this one. Yeah, I'm gonna show like the what I did. Let me just, before I jump to that, I think like I need to walk you guys through what's in there, right? And I had done like before this pull request, and I brought everything under the Azure DevOps. Initially, as you can remember, there were only those pipelines here. APIN wasn't here, but I had tools, just the folder pipelines, and I had like those three pipelines in here. Okay, and what I have done is that I have run this extractor. What's interesting is that like, well, it's very comprehensive. I'm not gonna go to each single task in here. I'll leave to you guys to check it, but I think like it's really robust. And what's in here, like it's going to cover all of the scenarios that you have. And if you look in here like the publisher as well, the publisher is simple because I have like the dev. It comes like with the dev in production by default. I think the only thing I did was because I created configuration pipelines in here. I modified this one and modified this one down at the bottom. Why? Because let's say if I have like a development environment, there will be particular variables that belong to the dev instance. I don't want those variables to come across to production. The way of how you do it, how you do that, you create like those configuration files. And when you look in here, like just by looking, you need first to have an idea of what's under this APIN. What came up? First extraction. I got APIs, diagnostics, groups, loggers, named values, products, all of the internal objects from APIN, right? So the mocked API came through. And what happens in here, for example, application sites, right? Diagnostics. You're gonna face some things in general, like well, IDs, right? So if you have like different IDs, you want your ID, like for your environment, to be the one to be used, right? So you're going to specify, okay, that's the one in here, the diagnostics, application sites. This is my configuration. Okay, so for this one, my logger ID is going to be this instance of my application sites. I would have something different in here for production, right? So I could just change that because production is going to leverage this different instance. You can see here the instrumentation key, which is under named values instrumentation key. Named values instrumentation key. Okay, that's that will be like the hard coded one, which is the dev instance. Okay, if I well one point in here, if I don't create this, this is the one that's going to be provisioned to your environment. So pay attention that this is my dev instance. For production, I want something different, right? So this is important. Okay, so you need to have like this configuration file. On documentation, that's the API ops in here. It's not like that obvious. You need to drill down in here and see. I don't remember really where that is, but it's something for that you need to consider. Like, and I don't remember, to be honest, where is it? And but it's just like something that I bring here, and that's why I created those, right? What I want to show, there was like a preview pull request that I abandoned, but I had done what? Okay, that was the policy that I had just changed. So I changed like one single configuration. What I grabbed was just the change that I had made, right? Which is it's really powerful, okay, and it's very accurate. And I want like to bring like an example really. So we get like to do some things in here. Uh, Let me see. Um, I'm gonna go and create. Uh, have I still changed that? Nope. Let me bring back this to 200. I'm just gonna leave in here because I'm doing other demos, so I don't want to forget that. Uh, I'm gonna create an API, and this API is going to have an API definition. Okay. If you look in here, like in my sample, you're gonna see that I have like this web. It's a web API, and we have this Swagger JSON. This Swagger JSON was extracted from here. Okay. But I just put in here for me, just when I upload, just show like how it works. But if I was to come in here, okay, let me go up. Am I like on the right? I am. .NET run. Okay. I'm just checking my Yeah, the window is fine. Okay. So I have that. Come to this. Not this. This. Okay, and I have my Swagger in here. Yeah, it is a to-do list. It doesn't do much, but you're gonna see that if I can try that. If I try without the correlation ID, I get a message that, okay, this filter is required, okay, but it's not like a body, it's a header, okay. So I need to provide this. I can provide it's just a string, but after that happens, I have my results coming here, okay. What I did, I went like to the Swagger JSON. I have my definition, and I saved that, okay. When this saved as, and use this one, and I got to this definition. That's how it came up. And let me just stop this one. Don't want to leave it hanging. What I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna create this endpoint within the here within the API management. I'm gonna grab like this ADO instance under the development. Oh, there's a warning here. Well, there's a deadline for people to migrate the instance from STV1 to STV2. All of mine are STV2, so I'm good. Yeah, have a look at that. If you have like an instance, it's telling me that. I didn't have this one before, just just mentioning anyways. But what I'm gonna do in here is that I have my mocked API. I want to include a new API, okay? Oh, that's too big, eh? Um, anyways, let me pick that Swagger definition when it comes. Is this because my screen is that big? Just bear with me. I'm gonna decrease that. Yeah, yeah, there was that. Let me change. Where is that? Oh no. Just bear with me. Um, this one, dev. I have the demo APIOps sample. Okay, let me bring this screen. So that's my Swagger definition. I'm gonna import as is. Okay. Okay, let me see if I zoom in a little bit more. Screen doesn't seem that great. Okay, and perhaps should be okay. All right, so that was created. Uh, things in here, sometimes I like to say like things, details, really make complete difference. You can see in here I have create to do, very well definition. Here I have nothing. Right? I forgot to put declarations of the methods and what they do. So that's why I'm getting this. It's just a detail, but when you create our APIs, if you see things like that, you need to document your APIs. What I want to do, I want to create like a version, right? Not a revision. I create like a version because I want just to establish something that it's a version 1. There are multiple ways of specifying versions with API management, or not even, or you could do like path, header, query strings, different scenarios. That's a complex topic because people have different opinions. I'm just doing this for the sake of the demo. But this is in general like is a team decision. I say that because your team is going to know what's best for what you're creating. Okay. Uh, I don't need the original. I'm going to delete that one. So I have like my version number 1. Yay. But what's in there? Okay. It's pointing to the local host. That's not going to work. Because what I have in here is that this is the web service URL. I can change that, or I can just leave in there. I need to define a backend where the request is going to go. If I remove that, it's just going to become a little bit cleaner in here, but it has no effect, right? So at all. What I'm going to do is that, well, I need to push to a backend. So I'm going to create a backend in here, okay? That's the backend. And what it does is that it allows me to put a URL where I can send my request to. I have created, let's see, this one. I can do like different things in here, like, okay, using a Azure resource, even Service Fabric. For the sake of the demo, I'm going to put a custom URL, but it could be an Azure resource as well. Okay. So let's say that I have this URL. That's my dev instance. Okay. Oops. Dev instance. I'm just going to create that. And that's it. So my backend's in there. It's called API to do backend. I'm going to go back and create a policy for that. With policies on API, man, well, it's just crazy. You can go like at the global level, you can go like the operations, you can go like at the operation level. I'm gonna go for my API at all operations. And what I'm gonna do in here is that I'm gonna set this backend. And let me pull like that. Uh, let me see. This one. I have like my code snippet ready. I'm gonna show this one later in here. It's kind of interesting. Right now, it's okay, but you can see that I have like the set backend to my API to do backend. It's a backend ID. Okay, so I have that. In theory, I could do the request and get that to work, right? And if I can do like from tests and checking here, what's gonna happen? All right, okay. That's the same message we had like on the local host. Correlation ID is required. So I need to create that. How I'm gonna do it? I can inject, let's say, if you provide the correlation ID, that goes, it flows through. If you don't provide, let's say for telemetry reasons, you want to track from your gateway, right? API management, you want to track and do like some sort of tracing what ant in and how you're going to trace that. You could put like some sort of correlation ID. I'm going to do that. I have like this sort of example where I created something on my blog. And I'm going to create like this correlation ID in here. Let's just go. I'm going to put like the body in here. Okay. Uh, it's interesting that I'm not going to go with X dash correlation ID. I just put correlation ID because that's what was on the API. Well, that what the API was expecting, really. But what it shows in here is that when the condition, when it contains, well, it does nothing. It just is a pass through. Otherwise, if the header is not present, it generates a correlation ID, which is a good. That's it. I'm going to call this one as correlation ID fragment. Okay, I'm going to create that. And well, I need to bind that to my API. And how I'm going to do that? Through the policy. Let me just grab that and I'm going to bring this to my policy. This one, okay? So I have now both policies in here. It has like this base, which comes from a more high level policy. And that has nothing really, but uh, it's based on inheritance. And I have like include like these fragments in the backend. It's all in there. What about now? Well, now I should be able to do the request from here. All right, so if I make the request, cool, I'm getting things in here. All right, so things right now, like it's just working. So if I go to Thunder clients, I had APO dev to-dos. All right, so 200, beautiful. I'm not showing my header here. It contains like the subscription key, but that's it. I know that's working. All right, so what about like production to-dos? It's not there, okay? 404. Let's do now pipeline. Uh, so for pipelines, uh, first, so we made this change on the dev environment. We need to extract that. I'm gonna do this one under ADO. Yep, there are like some variables that are asked in here. Okay, so additional ones. We're gonna have AP and instance name, resource group name, repository, and the folder. Okay, what's my API instance name? That's this one. I'm gonna copy that and go in here. Then I need my resource group name. Coming back in here, resource group name, resource group name. My repository, I have done this before. It's the same name, so that's why I'm putting here. But you need to match your repository, right? So ADO. What's the folder? It's apin. Okay, that's my root folder. Let me just double check that. One of the things doing like live demos with DevOps is that it takes time. If you make like a mistake, yeah, it takes minutes. So apin, right? My repository API APIOps demo. Double check, extract all. Okay, in here. Let's run. This is the sort of thing like that can take a minute or two. In general, like a couple of minutes, right? And I'll leave that one hanging for now. And what we can do is just to check on uh, GitHub, okay? So for GitHub, this is a private repo, okay? This is not public. And what I have done, it was the same example, right? I did exactly the same for ADO in GitHub. The only thing that changed in here is that the API is echo. The other one was a mocked version. Uh, in, but exactly the same sort of principles. One thing that I forgot to mention is that in here, right? I know my in here. You can see those. No, let me grab it again. This one, application sites. Okay, application sites. All of those variables, depending on how your API management instance was provisioned, maybe you would have like, okay, you're provisioning a dev instance, right? APIOps, it depends on your name conventions, but you would have like a stamp of a dev, right? Or with the Azure naming tool, you're going to end up like with a particular standard, right? And you're going to name your environments, dev, TST, UIT, prod. What I noticed is that they would be coming here, like for example, dev, right? Something would be bad, like in here, like something like app insights. What's app insights? I forgot. App insights. Don't remember like your naming tool, but anyways, so your AP name dash dev, something like that, right? Or for our other instance, UIT, and that would come in here. That's not good. So you need to make sure that you have, uh, let's say, generic names that don't match any particular instance. Whatever is defined in here is what's going to be provisioned under the different environments. I'm not saying things about the secrets, nothing like that. So I showed that in a different way where we can have like this deployment configuration file. But this is a folder thing, right? Even like with folders, they would go like something dev to our production environment. That would be misleading. So pay attention for the folder names. Make sure they are agnostic, right? So that's something to bring that up. The other thing in here is that the workflows, uh, uh, different from what I did on ADO, I didn't include like a dev version. I just left the prod. I'm just saying that, well, don't touch dev because what comes out of the pull request is the one that's going to be provisioned, right? I'm not changing variables, but for production, I am, okay? And that's like what's in there. I had like some actions in here that I had run before, and those are the annoying parts where I see errors when sometimes like I just I would say like canceling or rejecting some sort of commits. Yeah, you just see those things in here. But when I do like extraction, all right, okay, I'm running like the extractor. Cool, it does that, creates a pull request, just works. I think my perspective is just like the noise. I don't like the noise. So that would require a little bit of uh, attention, right? So yeah, because in the end, when you look in here, everything all together, and they're like, oh, things are working, but I don't like the noise. So that's why I wanted to say. Anyways, so it needs a little bit more love on that part. Okay, it's just like a heads up, but it works really well. No issues at all, and things just run as supposed. Right. So interesting that the publisher was called AP Artifact Extract. But if I dive in here, you can see that because well, it shows like my release to a dev, right? To the dev instance, I release to a production instance. I'm just showing this because I'm not doing on GitHub, but you know that it works. Interesting that I can see there was an extraction. And when you look in here, you can see exactly what's doing it. Have you explored like Spectral before? Like it's pretty cool. So you can specify rules for your or API definitions, and you can enforce those. In here, for any errors or any findings, by default, it comes with a warning, but you could block. So you remember like the Swagger definition that I imported, right? There probably are some inconsistencies in there. And if I really want to be really pedantic on that, so like just really block, I could, okay, rather than letting it go, I just error the pipeline. So you know that other teams, they need to comply with API definition rules, okay? This is just bypassing. That's what's happening. But let's see now. So this one has worked. Let's see the pull request. That's in here, okay? So that's the pull request that came up. And exactly what I did, it came across, okay? Uh, One point in here, not sure if you guys are going to remember. I'm missing something. I am missing something because what I did with the backend, okay, this is the dev. I need a configuration file for that, okay? So that's something that's really important. We cannot forget about that. Otherwise, if I push to production, it's going to go to dev, exactly like that, like this dev reference. And that's a problem. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in here and go with, where's my terminal? Ah, here. Okay, let me close that. Where am I? The ADO. Okay, APIOps. I'm just diving onto the folder. Okay, Let me do like a git pull. It's just because I have ADO and GitHub all together, I'm doing from command rather than from Visual Studio Code. But let me grab this one, git checkout, this one. Okay. So I just grabbed that in here. Oops. Let me close this. All right. So I don't have like a definition for the backend. I need to put it. For that, what I'm gonna do, I have like a snippet. Um, Let me put this one. Okay, in here. This is dev. Well, dev is dev. Okay, I could just leave as is, but I'm gonna leave like I'm gonna change that dev and dev. I think that's those only two dev. I'm gonna leave like that. Cool. They are like an improper position. One of the things, it should be spaces rather than tabs. Okay. If you do it wrong, you're only going to find that at the time of the release, which can take some minutes. I think this is it. Let me copy that. I'm gonna save that. And let me go to the production one. Okay, production. I could just leave like dev as is, but because I created, I make it consistent. Don't skip steps, don't cut corners. That's what I want to say. Okay, let's save this one. So I have prod. Okay, tabbing, all work, no tabs, just space. Great, cool. Let me change that. Okay, configuration, updates, configuration updates. Commit and push. Yes. So it's gonna go back to this when it does. All right, view latest. So now I have my configuration dev added. Awesome. In my production in here, great. I'm gonna approve this. Complete. I am the owner. You should have your own PR process. Okay. And that's done. What's gonna happen is that this is going to trigger, so it's thinking, the publisher. Okay. That's the last part of the demo. So what I'm expecting is that after we get, where's my Thunder client? I have my ADO dev, which is 200, and my ADO prod, which is 404, still 404, okay? I'm expecting this to be 200. That's the ultimate goal. It can take some time. In the meantime, right? I know that it's 9 o'clock. Well, let's do, oh, I think I'm gonna do now like let's raffle off like those licenses, right? I think that's a important moment. What I'm gonna bring this screen here. Can I, this one, okay? For this one, well, hopefully you can see it. Yes, you can see it. I'm gonna put like the link for the winners, okay? I'm gonna get two names. I don't know if the attendees are going to be online, but if they are not, I'm gonna get 8 more winners, right? As a fallback. What I want like you to do is that to put, if I pick like your name, you're online, just come in here and put like a comment, I'm online. That's it. Even for the other 8 fallback winners, if I pick like your name, just come in here because I'm expecting that if like the first 2 they're not online. All right, so I'm gonna give the license to the next in line. Okay, let me copy like this URL so it's easy for you to come in there. Right, yeah, I'm gonna put like on the chat. As soon as I pick like your name, as I said, go there and say I'm online. Okay, that's it. As simple as that. I have like a just a timeout in here, so it has pushed to dev. Now it's gonna push to production. I have approval process. I'm gonna review it, approve it. Okay, and that should continue. I'm gonna leave it in there, and let's go like to this. I hope you know what this is. Okay, that's the wheel of names. I in general like I use with my teams for things, and it's pretty cool. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab your names. I just downloaded from the yes, I just downloaded from the attendees. Okay, all right. I'm gonna put like names in here. Okay, my name is in there as well. I don't want to win this. You guys are going to win. So I put like all of our names. Okay. So I'm gonna spin and see what happens. And I'm gonna I'm gonna record that. As soon as your name comes in here and you're online, go in there and say I'm online. Okay. First winner. Hi. Well, congratulations. I'm gonna put like your name in here. You're the first winner. Hope you are online. So if you are not, others are gonna take advantage of that. Okay, I'm gonna remove you from here. I'm gonna grab like the second winner. Okay, Mary. Well, congrats. So you are like the first two winners. Hope you are online. If you're not, we're gonna go to the third one. Okay, which is the next? Bram. Okay, congrats. You're the third one in line. Next one. Uh, Money. Congrats, Money Saini. So you're fourth in line. Let's go with fifth one. Who is next? Sunday work. All right. You're the fifth. Let's go to the sixth one. Okay. Who? Nikhil. Congrats. Number seven. Pradeep. So guys, if you are online, even if like you are now number five, number six, go there and say, I'm online, okay? Uh, I'm gonna check like by the end of this session, if people have not replied and they are number one, number two, I'm gonna give like to the others, okay? Pradeep, such diva. Nice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's go to number 8. I'm gonna go up to 10, okay? I'm just checking my phone in here as well because I saw that people commented. which is good. Rita Wang. Okay, let's go. I think number 9. Number 9. Reza. Reza. Okay. Ibrahimi. Ibrahimi. Sorry. I'm taking notes of that. And last one. Oh, James. James Kurbel. Oh, cool. Cool. All right. I'm gonna give you guys up to the end of the session just to put like your names in there, your comments. Just say like I'm online, right? So please do it, and then yeah, I'm gonna just check, and then I can compare. Okay, and you're gonna see who won. If like the first two really are there. Okay, there was a push to production in here. Okay, well, I think that's the time now where things are gonna work or not. It's just the drums. There were like some songs, 200, right? That's awesome. So meaning that uh, this worked, it went across to the production instance. Let's see the production instance. Okay, production instance. What happens that okay, it provisioned the V1. Okay, that's in there. There were what else? The backend. The backend. Let's see. Come on, go. Where is that? Can I see the URL? Yeah, that's important, right? Uh, can I edit? Edit. What? Ah, no, it's just open the URL. Never mind. Ooh, this one, okay? That's the important thing. So this is taking the broad instance. So the configuration that I created in there just was used really, and it completely changed from dev to production, which is the expected behavior, right? So let me go back to that. What else do we have in here? I think this is it because the policy fragments should be there. One point here I would like to bring, right? I mentioned that in here. You can I expand this? I put like double. I had changed this to be a custom URL. I could come in here and change that to be demo broad, but like it still requires me like to put the URL. I think this one should be okay. Let me save that. Okay. I don't know if this is a bug. It's just interesting finding. Maybe you find like interesting as well. Let's see. In here, the the fragments are there. And well, I'm changing production because now we're concluding like the demo, right? But I'm just tweaking things because I want to show like just like a behavior. I would say behavior or a feature or a bug. You can define that. This one is the backend, right? When I looked in the backend here, like it's HTTP, there's nothing there. But if I change that in here, right? So it changed. Oh, sorry, not this one. This one, which is expected. Okay, so well, it's Azure Resource Group, Azure Resource for production. Fine, nice. What if I remove this? Yeah, it doesn't recognize, right? So just not sure if it's a bug, if it's a feature, but you can be misled if if you don't see things, right? All right. Yeah, with that, like I can conclude the demo. Let me just go like to the messages. And I'm gonna bring in here the UI. So let's see if the winners are really the winners. Wow. Nope, they are not. Only Nikhil. Nikhil, you are the first one. Okay, so you put it your name in here. So Nikhil, you were number 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. You were number 6. You got there. Okay. So Nikhil is the first winner. Now we need the second winner. Okay. Uh, Let me see if I can find your guy's name here. Yeah, Nikhil is the first one. Can you guys can you guys jump in there and just put like your names under the chat? All of you, all of you. If you want to win, just go there, put like a message, and I'm gonna do like a wheel of names only with you guys because you guys deserve it. Uh, Richard, just go um, to the meetup, URL. Okay, this one. Because like from YouTube, I cannot simply extract your name. But if you go like on the meetup, then I can grab it and I can copy it. That's for Tash Fatima as well. You need to do it like on meetup. I want like to have like one more winner tonight, really. Yeah, I think this one is going to take some time. Let's do that. You guys put like your name under the chat on YouTube. I'll ping you guys later on, and I'll let you know on the comment section in here. Okay. So I'll grab your guys' name. Just say something on the chat, please. Say hi on the chat. And I'll grab your name. But you need to be enrolled under the attendees, right? Because if I grab your name from YouTube and you're not here, I'm not gonna find you. So just say hi. Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, I can see your names. Perfect. And that's it. I'm gonna grab like your guy's name and then put it on the wheel, and then I'll let you guys know from there. Maybe I just provide like a recording from from the wheel later on. I'll put like in there as well, so you know that yeah, it's legit, right? But thank you very much for joining tonight. That's like what I really want to share. I hope you learned a little bit more about the APIOps, how you can apply to ADO on GitHub, and make use of that really. Yeah, and rather than creating scripts from scratch, it's just like work with those schemas. With that, just leave you guys. We're gonna have like in a couple weeks, we're gonna have more sessions. There's more to come. Just keep in touch. Yeah. Thanks for hanging with me until the end. And yeah, catch you guys next. Have a great evening. Cheers. Thank you.